Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another session, our sixth session for the 2024 DTB KBA Financial Literacy and Enterprise Development session. It's been quite a journey. We've covered interesting topics so far. We've had business competitiveness, succession planning. We even had taxation and emotional intelligence last week. So it has been great walking this journey with all of you. And as usual, as you join in, we would love to hear what you have been learning from all the previous modules. We want to understand in the past few weeks, it's been now 5 weeks, have you implemented anything different? We usually hear that you need just 21 days to change a habit, and maybe for an organization, it could be the same thing. So in the previous 5 weeks, have you been able to implement something? Karibuni sana sana sana. Thank you for joining in from different parts of the country. We can see Mohammed from Voi, Kenneth from Nairobi, Kevin from Nakuru, Esther from Rongai. Thank you. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. And as always, if you would want to share something that has stood out for you, please do so in the chat. You could also raise your hand and we will select you so that we can just get to understand maybe the new things that you have implemented in your business and something different that you are changing. So I'm looking forward to seeing some few hands raised up, some chats. We'd love to understand what has changed for you in your business so far since we began. We have Shanice from Kisumu, Karibuni Sana, Valentine from Athi River, Kennedy from Malindi, Ida from Switzerland. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. And as usual, when we begin the training, we will disable the chats so that we can enable everyone to be able to focus on the content. And then during the Q&A and during the breaks, we will open up the chats. So we do have a Q&A tab at the bottom of our screen that you can use to ask your questions, and we will answer as many of them as possible. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I'd like to, before we begin, open the floor to a few people, maybe who can share what stood out for them. Maybe it could be from the emotional intelligence session we had last week, or also just in general from all the sessions that we have had. So feel free to share on the chat, and feel free to raise your hand as well. Right. And today we shall be having a session on emergency preparedness. And I think it's very timely. It's a very timely module, given the state of the world, given the state of the nation. There's constantly emergencies. In 2020, we had COVID. Over time, we've had different changes nationally that have affected businesses. And so we thought it best to bring this particular module your way so that you can be able to organize yourself as a business leader on how best to prepare for emergencies. Yeah, so it's quite a timely session today, and I hope that you are all ready to glean as much as possible. So welcome once again. I would really love to see any lessons learned or anyone who'd want to share. So please feel free to do that, and we will reach out. We'll allow you to speak and read as well your comment. So today we have a trainer. Our trainer is called William Kinai. For those who've been consistent over the years, you probably do recognize William Kinai. He is a lead consultant from CTS Solutions, and he is a finance director at Novatus Limited. He has 24 years of experience in financial management, curriculum development, and instruction. So he is well-versed in the business development space, and he will be the one taking us through the session. Right. And so, just before we officially begin, again, I'd love to hear, and we would love to hear any new things you've implemented in your business, in your businesses, from the sessions that we've had. usually it's really good to hear and to understand how best again we can craft the session. All right, great. So allow me to just reach out to William. I think he has a bit of a challenge with the network, but he is joining in a few. So welcome once again. Please feel free to chat us and to let us know what has stood out for you, and we will begin shortly. Thank you. All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your patience. Archana is having a bit of a challenge joining in, but he will be here shortly. So yeah, I had seen Ramadan Nur, you had raised your hand. I don't know if you wanted to speak or that was by mistake. Let me see. Oh, you have. Okay. Let me just allow you to speak. Right, Ramadan, you can share with us perhaps something that has stood out for you or what you've been able to implement in your business. Ramadan,
Good morning, everyone.
good morning.
Yeah, thank you very much for the sessions, and thank you for giving me the opportunity at least to say what really stood out for me and emphasize something that I would really like my fellow business persons to really have a look at it. For me, what really stood out is the bit on emotional intelligence. The bit that the ability to be able to assess, to recognize and understand and manage your emotions and the emotion of others was really important for me because we are in a world that we deal with very many people at once and everyone has his own bits of frustration, resentment, anger, and all that. So it is very important while having very many stakeholders from our financial institutions, suppliers, customer, and all that. For you to be able to influence them in any way, you must be able to read their emotions, know how to communicate with them, being empathetic with everyone. And I believe with the right level of emotional intelligence for everyone, that will give your business a competitive advantage over others. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ramadan. And truly that's a timely takeaway that you have to know how to handle your emotions, to self-regulate. If you can remember some of the things that we came across last week in order to meet the needs of your different stakeholders. So thank you very much, Ramadan, for that insight. And we are glad that you've taken something away from the training. Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. I don't know if there's anyone else who would want to share their takeaways and anything that they have learned from the sessions. And we have William who's been able to join. Thank you very much, William. We were just trying to recap from the previous sessions, trying to understand, the people that what people have gained from the previous sessions. So again, ladies and gentlemen, we are having a session on emergency preparedness today, so that you can know how best to handle your crisis, how best to handle the unforeseen, the uncertainty, and this term that we really like using nowadays, unprecedented times, because every single day there's something that's happening in the country, globally, that affect our businesses in one way or another, directly or indirectly. So I've already introduced William. And so, William, I think I can hand over to you as I share also the screen. And again, ladies and gentlemen, we will disable the chats during the session just to allow for everyone to be able to focus. And the interpretation tab is at the bottom of your screen. Let's get ready for a rich session. Over to you, William. Karibu sana. Oh, you're on mute. Please unmute.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I am William Kinai, and I will be taking you over this discussion on risk management, risk preparedness for your businesses. Mantui, kindly enable me to share
All right.
the presentation.
Yes, please confirm that you can. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I can share. So thank you. So welcome to this presentation on business crisis and emergency preparedness. I am William Kinai, and I will be taking you for this presentation. Allow me just to save some bandwidth by turning off the camera at this point in time. Is my presentation visible?
Yes, William, it is.
Okay, so I can proceed.
Yes.
So we will be discussing about business crisis and emergency preparedness. And what we will be discussing it in three broad areas. Just to introduce myself, my name is William Kinai. I am a consultant. I've been training for 24 years, and I'm humbled to be facilitating this training for today. So we will be covering our content in those three areas. It's a continuum. We'll begin with the risk management dimension, then come and talk about the crisis management, and then we will talk about the business continuity management. It's a logical flow of events. So allow me now to proceed to the first session, which is on risk management. And to begin with, let's ask ourselves a question. What risks are we facing in our environment? What are the risks? What are the challenges are we facing in our environment? Just have a look at this. We have been having frequent financial crisis globally, locally. It's something that businesses have to deal with very frequently. Locally, we do have our own unique situation whereby we're having an extremely low rate of inflation, 2.7% last month. Yeah, and everyone is asking, why is business slow, you know? What's happening? Why is business slow, you know? We have this unique scenario that is on our hands right now in Kenya. Something that we have to deal with. It's a risk we have to manage. Yeah, we're beginning a rainy season. We are all familiar with these scenes. You're in business, you do business in Kenya, in Nairobi, in the regions, in the counties. It has rained. Your products can't get to the market. Your vehicles are stuck up, probably even for a week, probably more. Or even worse, the entire vehicle is washed away in floods. The things that we're dealing with in Kenya, this is an image from Eastern DRC. There's war going on there. Our neighbors have had wars. We have our own fair share of unrest in this country, exposing us to risks that as a business organization, you have to manage. Yet another one. We have suffered frequent droughts in this part of Africa, giving us a challenge. Nairobi is water stressed. No, we just need to go around, look at the number of tankers delivering water in Nairobi area, the number of mkokotenis and donkeys and tuk-tuks delivering water in Nairobi. Businesses are impacted on. You have to manage this risk of access to water. How are you managing it? Litigation. Lately, we've become a society where you will be taken to court for, you know, any reason, you know, and yeah, the law is there to protect people. However, we still do need to manage the risk of litigation against our businesses. So there are a lot of things that we have to think about. This is an image of Kekomba Market. Have very frequent fires at Kekomba Market and other places where people are doing business, where your products probably are being sold, or where you have a business interest. So the point is that there are many risks that we have to consider. Remember this, we had the COVID-19 pandemic, which afflicted very many of us, and we were impacted on by one way or another. Remember the lockdowns? Yeah, I mean, we're impacted on one way or another. So the point is, there are all these risks that we have to manage. And they are around us, and you know, we can't divorce ourselves from the business environment that we are operating in. So we need to come up with a concept of what is risk, what risk are we managing? And what do we mean by risk? What do we mean by risk? Risk means an effect of uncertainty on our objectives. As business people, we plan. We have a budget. We have a strategic plan. We have a work plan. We have a budget intended to enable us achieve our objectives. Risks in our environment may impede the attainment of our business objectives. That likelihood that your business objectives will not be achieved, that is risk. And that likelihood that your business objectives may not be achieved has to be managed. And that is what we are referring to as risk management. Now, we all manage risks. Okay, we all manage risks. We do it consciously or unconsciously. I carried my backup, my modem. That's what I'm presenting from. You see, I mean, we manage risks consciously or unconsciously. Whatever vehicle you take, say, for example, when you're traveling, when you're commuting, you're managing risks. There's what you will use, there's what you will not use. We are managing it consciously or unconsciously. Uber, Bolt, these days, they will give you can choose a female driver. You're managing risk consciously or unconsciously. We manage this on a daily basis. The school bus you choose for your children. I mean, all these are things that we're managing. The security guards you employ at your workplace, the processes that you have to ensure that you collect your receipts, your sales, you're managing risks. We manage these risks consciously or unconsciously. However, we rarely manage risks systematically. And that is what we're discussing today. Can we manage our risks systematically? Now, risks, managing of risk must be forward thinking. You are managing risks that have not yet occurred. You are managing risks that may happen, that may have an impact on the achievement of your business objective, even though that risk has not yet happened. But it has happened to other people. It has happened to your neighbors. It has happened to your competitors. Risk management is done with a forward outlook, in anticipation. How would this risk impact me? It's already impacting on other people. It may impact on you at some point in time. It's statistical, you know. So, two, when you're managing risks, you are acting proactively. You are acting responsively. You do not want to wait until you have been impacted on by the risk. You are acting proactively, responsively. That's your mindset. Just in case this happens, how do I continue providing? How do I continue with my production activities? How do I continue with serving my customers? You do not want a gap as far as the customer is concerned. Then when you talk about risk management, you take a balanced mindset. You do not want extremes. You do not want to expose yourself to risks 100% without precautions on the one end. And then on the other end, at the other extreme, you do not want to get out of business, shut down completely because you cannot manage your risks. It's a continuum. You want to do business? Yes. You do not want to expose yourself to unnecessary risk. You want to minimize exposure. And on the other end, you do not want to totally get out of business, shut down just because of risk. You want to take a balanced mindset between the two extremes. Managing risks is about optimizing, maximizing opportunities. You want to establish a business system that is going to maximize the reward you derive from business opportunities. You want to ensure that your business is at the right place, at the right time, with the right resources, the right product for the right customer. You want to put your business at a point where you are able to maximize the benefit. You're able to maximize service delivery to your customers. Risk management is about minimizing threats. On that continuum of opportunity and threats, there's opportunity on one hand, you want to maximize opportunities. On the other side, on the other end of the continuum, you want to minimize the threats that you are exposed to as a business. So it is forward thinking, you're acting proactively, you want to strike a balance, you want to maximize opportunities, and you want to minimize the threats that you may be facing as a business. So when it comes to risk management is going to be governed by principles. It's going to have a framework, and it is going to have a process. The three components complement each other. You cannot have one without the other. So we have principles that guide the management of risks. We will look at them shortly. At the core of our intent to manage risk is we want to create value for our customers. We want to protect the business. Number two, we want to, in terms of having a framework, it is a system. Risk management is a system. It is a system that requires leadership. It's a system that will require to be integrated with the all other components that you do as an organization. Then the third component is the risk management process. That risk management process will be driven by leadership, which is guided by the principles of risk management. So allow me just to proceed to the next slide. This is the risk management principles. Just as a quick overview of the risk management principles, at the core of risk management principles is that you want to achieve value for the company. You want to achieve value for the organization. The second important aspect that drives risk is that you want to protect the business. You want to protect the business from all those threats that the business is exposed to. Having said that, the 8 principles are necessary to mention at this point. To begin with, you have to take an integrated mindset. Now, say for example, you are in manufacturing, your business, you're in manufacturing. You purchase materials. You bring materials to your production facility, you process those materials. You manufacture a product which is later going to be sold and delivered to your customers. You have a number of functions in your organization. You have the inbound logistics, you have the outbound logistics, you have the processing. When you manage risks, you have to integrate risk management over all functions of the organization. Have to integrate all. It's not something that will be done by some exclusive person, risk management champion in the organization. It is something that will integrate all functions, all activities of the organization. Number two, risk management is structured and comprehensive. Risk management is going to be an activity that is going to be guided by certain objectives. It is going to be guided by the activities of the organization. So say, for example, we're talking about risk management. You want to ensure that your business is, you minimize the risks facing your business. You will have an objective. You will define an objective that we are going to manage our risks to ensure that we have business continuity. So it is going to be structured. It is going to be guided by certain objectives, by certain ideals of the organization. It is comprehensive. It covers, as I have said, all functions of the organization. So it is structured and comprehensive. Every function is involved. Every person working for that organization is involved. From the CEO to, the temporary person, the casual employee you have, everybody is involved. It's comprehensive. Every function, every section, every employee of that organization is involved. Every activity you do as an organization will fall within risk management activities. At this point, let me say this. If you are a manager, if you are a supervisor, we say you are the risk owner. As the process owner, you own the risks that section you're managing are being impacted on. You're the risk owner. 3, it is customized. It is not something that you're going to go online and you download risk management plan. There are so many out there. Risk management plan, template for your organization. Risk management is customized for your organization. No two organizations are the same. From experience, I have come to respect people's businesses, people's processes. No two businesses are the same. You will not take the business plan of company A, and come and put it in your company. You will not go get, some template from the net. Well, you can refer to a template, nothing wrong with that, but you will have to customize it to the requirements, to the specific risks that your organization is facing. So your risk management is customized for that organization, for the specific situation you are facing today. It's customized. So you will not have a risk management plan that will never change for the last 5 years. It's better, brother, you don't even worry about risk management then. It's going to be, with ideal risk management, there will be periodic, ideally monthly, risk management meetings where risks are going to be identified. What you will ask yourself, what new risks have emerged? What new threats have, what new opportunities have emerged? It's customized. It's to the specific situation. Now that we are having a rate of inflation 2.7%, what risks are we facing from that? Then that, don't look at it just exclusively. I mean, we are also having other scenarios. We're having we're having a growth rate of under 5%. We have a GDP growth rate of under 5%. We're having a relatively high interest rate. So as you consider the scenario you are facing today, this month, this week, you will be customizing your risk management plan to address the situation that you're facing right now. Business people, probably I will mention that business has been rather slow lately. Have you customized your risk management plan to meet this slow demand that we are facing? What are the risks of the sluggish demand? And as I talk to business people, it's across the board. Big business, small business, it's impacting on everyone. If you're collecting rent, you know the issues you're facing today. You know, we say contract rent has to be paid by the 5th today. No, people are behind rent for months. So yeah, so are you customizing your risk management guided by the current issues, current threats, current opportunities that you are facing? Risk management is inclusive. Risk management is inclusive. It is not the domain of certain people in the organization. Risk management is inclusive. Everybody has a role to play in risk management. As long as you are in that organization, you have a role to play to ensure that your organization is resilient, is able to deliver, is able to continue operating. So risk management is inclusive. You cannot ignore certain people from that risk management activity. So it is an inclusive activity. Everybody has a role to play in risk management. You cannot ignore the fact that everybody in the organization has a role to play when it comes to the risk management. You will have to consider all stakeholders who may be impacted on by risk in your organization. You have to identify all potential stakeholders who are impacted on by a certain risk. It is an inclusive process. You will not consider risk and the management of risk just from the point of view of the business. We are able to sell, we have secured our assets, we have secured our employees. You will have to take a holistic view. You will also have to look at it from the point of view of your customer. You will also have to look at it from the point of your suppliers, the point of view of the utility providers. It is an inclusive process. You will consider all stakeholders. 5, it is a dynamic process. You will have to take into consideration everything in your environment, everything that is happening in your environment at the current point in time. It is risk management is about managing on a day-to-day basis just let me give an example here. It's dynamic. It's something that will change day to day. Just as an example, in organizations that consider safety to be an important aspect of managing, we're doing risk management. Safety is one of the risks that you are going to be managing. You do not want to have injuries at the place of work. You do not want, people being injured by machines you have deployed at your place of work. You want a safe working environment. So, having said that, companies will invest to ensure that employees identify new safety risks, bring them to management, bring them to the supervisor. If the supervisor is not taking action, there will be an alternative channel for presenting safety concerns of employees. So number 1, present it to supervisor. Number 2, there will be an alternative channel for presenting safety concerns. And any employee who identifies a concern that may need to be brought to management or where action may be taken can anytime raise this, give a notification of a risk issue that needs to be attended to. The manager will escalate it, the alternative channel will escalate it. When it gets to the decision maker, the budget holder, probably it gets to the desk of the MD or the CEO. The budget to address this issue in well-run companies, it does not require to go for approval at the board. It's implemented immediately. Then at the next board meeting, MD is now going to present, we spent this amount of money because of this thing. And dynamic companies, anything spent on safety does not require board approval. The board gets an explanation, justification of why we invested this and that for this safety requirement. It is better to manage this risk of worker safety than to handle accidents, than to handle lawsuits as a result of exposing employees to dangerous working environment. So the point is this: the risk management environment is dynamic. It will change. It will change with times. It is a dynamic environment. It is inclusive. Remember, we've just said it is inclusive. It covers all your stakeholders. And because you are dealing with multiple stakeholders, you're dealing with a dynamic business environment, then be sure that you will have to have a dynamic risk management regime. Things will change. You'll have to change as new risks emerge. Then risk management will work with the information available. For a fact, we will never have perfect information even in our businesses. We will never. I mean, we have limited resources. We will never have, there will always be delays in recording certain aspects. There will be delays. So the point is this, because of this lag in capturing information, with risk management, we work with the best available information. And that is why it is necessary as businesses, we will need to be able to capture information. We will need to be able to have, let me use another big word here, though we are not covering it in this, we will need to develop knowledge management practices. We need to develop a knowledge management system where information, where what we are learning is being captured and is available to the people working in this organization, right from management all the way to your temporary employees, your employees who you have employed on a casual basis. Risk management will work with the available information, and there will be limitations with regard to what is the available information. So, for example, we've just talked about a 2.7 rate of inflation. Do you know what the rate of inflation will be in this month, the new month? It could be higher, it could be lower. We don't have the information right now. Do we know what impact that is going to have on sales, on demand? We don't have that information right now. We could be having, a feeling by looking at our daily sales. That gives us a direction, but we do not have perfect information. With risk management, you will work with the information that is available right now. With risk management, you will consider human and cultural factors. We work with people. Our stakeholders are people. The owners of the company, the board of directors, these are people. The managers running the company, these are people. Your employees, these are people. We are working with a diverse set of people. People with very many expectations, very many concerns. Some of them are personal, some of them are cultural. You're working with a diverse set of people. I have mentioned before that as an organization, remember we have said that risk management is comprehensive, involves everyone in the organization, it is integrated, everybody is involved, every activity is involved, every employee is involved in the organization. When you go to certain companies you're visiting, they sit you down and give you, a health and a safety briefing. 1 minute, 2 minutes, You're dealing with people, diverse group of people. And as a consequence, your risk management has to address the risk concerns of all these people who are in these organizations. One of the things we say is that people want to have a safe working environment. We are living in a society which is prone to violence. Even at the workplace, these things have happened. Your risk management is going to address those concerns of your people. Do your employees feel safe working there? Is that a safe working environment for people who are working for you? Are they able to raise concerns? Are there cultural factors that are impacting on your people? For example, there are places where, for example, when we go for trainings, that's what I do for a living, you know. There are places we go for trainings and 9 o'clock is rather early for certain parts of the country. Say 9 o'clock is a little bit early for certain parts of the country. You consider the culture of the place. In some agricultural societies, like right now, when there's a planting season, these are business people. There's also in agriculture, they tell you first they passed by uko kwa shamba to see what was happening in the shamba. That is why we are arriving at 10 o'clock. Yeah, I mean, so when you consider this, there are those cultural factors, no? You have to consider agricultural communities. People will have to pass by the shambas, check out what's happening before they come to, you know, the trainings that you're providing. So consider that in risk management, you're dealing with people. They have their own personal concern. People are coming from communities, cultures. You will have to consider this. You will have to integrate this in your risk management. Then lastly, why we are engaging in risk management is because we want to improve. We want to have continuous improvement as an organization. We want to manage our risks better. We want to bring our organization to a point where we are more competitive today than we were yesterday because we have managed risks better. And this is holistic. All the risks you face, from business risk, from risks that are impacting on our staff, you want to manage all these risks better. You want to improve. You want to be competitive. You want to have an edge over your competitor because you did a better job at managing your risks. Risks will always be there. There will always be new risks emerging, but what you want to do, you want to be able to dynamically manage the new risks that are emerging. So yes, these are the principles of risk. Next, I would want us to discuss the risk management framework. Allow me just to project the next slide, which is on risk management framework.
And William, as you're projecting, I asked on a poll what our participants think, our business leaders think, who is responsible for risk management. So we can just share the results. We've gotten 64% who say all employees in the organization, 23% say operations manager, and 14% say the CEO. Maybe you can speak to that briefly as we move on to the framework. Yeah. Who is responsible for risk management activities?
Thank you. Risk management is the responsibility. Yes, CEO, operations management, they have a role to play. They will, especially at the top level, CEO, board level, are the ones to introduce risk management to the organization. That's where it starts. But when it comes to the practice of risk management, it is a communal activity. It is everybody's business. And following the principles we've just been discussing, it is everybody's business to manage risks. And this is the reason. this is the reason. You are working in that. Let's say I'm employed in this organization. I am a new hire in this organization. I'm working in this organization. New hire, totally new hire. This is my first week. And I do have my own concerns about my own safety. I have seen people's fingers chopped on by machinery. Okay. Our business, sometimes you hire guys, you hire welder. This guy is working with a grinder, 7-inch. And the guy says that he's more comfortable by removing that safety guard of the grinder. These are people. And then you find the guy is working wearing Crocs. I don't know where you guys know Crocs. You see, it's a safety concern. As a manager, I do not want to have injuries. I do not want to have injuries. I do not want to stop production to begin sending people to hospital. I do not want lawsuits. You provided grinder that did not have a safety guard. I mean, these are the things. It is everybody's business. Yes, the whole concept of risk management will be introduced at a high level, CEO, board level. But then, however, as you go forward, as you implement risk management, it becomes everybody's business. You come work for this organization, you find grinder does not have safety guard. Immediately, as an employee, you're a temporary worker. You raise an issue there. And that is what it is. And I have mentioned that in well-run organization, any employee can raise an issue with safety. And the moment that safety issue is raised, immediately the MD, the CEO, will spend money from the safety budget. And that money is spent, it does not require board approval. At the next board meeting, what the CEO does is just justifies why we had to invest this amount of money to improve safety. And you see, it becomes everybody's business in that organization. Safety is of paramount importance. You know, you do not want a place which is unsafe for people. So it's everybody's business. We all want to be working in a safe working environment. Mantui, have I answered your question?
Yes, really well. Thank you so much. So we can, I think, proceed to the next part. Thank you very much.
Let us proceed. Yes, I think we've mentioned this. These are the 8 principles we've just discussed. I want us to talk about the risk management framework. Let's talk about the risk management framework. And the whole purpose of the risk management framework is in order to assist the organization to integrate risk management into all activities across the organization. All the activities. You want to integrate risk management in all the activities of the organization. And as I have said, you want to every function, every section, every employee, you want to integrate risk management in all activities, all functions by all employees. So at the center of it is leadership. In your organization, as a leader in your organization, at whatever level of management you are in, you drive the risk management. You should have a risk management culture, not just the formal risk management activities, but also develop a risk management culture within the organization. It's a function of the leadership. It's a function of the commitment. Grow as risk management culture within the organization. Integrate this risk management into every aspect of the organization. So at the core of risk management, in the risk management framework, we have leadership. We have leadership. And leadership will drive this process forward. As I have mentioned, whatever organization you are in, without, you could be a large organization. If it is a very large organization that is now getting introduced to risk management, you have to have the buy-in of top management. You have to have buy-in of the board. If the risk management process is being championed by, say, the MD or the CEO, top management, you will need to see that commitment by the top leadership. It's even better when the entire risk management is driven by top management. It's their idea. It comes from them. So the buy-in is easier that way. And then there's the commitment. It's not something we're doing for today. It's not something we're doing, just for the sake of it. It's something, it's a long-term commitment. Best case scenario, we want to build a risk management culture within the organization. Having said that, once it is driven by top management, then risk management is easy to integrate into every function of the organization. It's integrated into every function, into every activity, into every process. What could go wrong? So everybody who is in charge of a section of a process, the process owner, is also the risk manager. So if it's marketing, you have a risk management plan for marketing activities for the marketing function. If it is finance, you have a risk management plan for the finance function. Operations, production, manufacturing, you have a risk management plan for each process in the manufacturing section. Point is, you will integrate risk management throughout the organization. You will have to design processes, activities with risk management in mind. You will have to design processes that are going to reduce risks. I've mentioned machinery. So you will have to design, you will have to say, for example, provide guards, especially for those moving parts of machinery, things that could cause injuries. So you will design risk management into your processes. You will implement risk management again in every function, every activity, every process. You will implement risk management in every activity, every process, everything you do, every task that is performed in the organization. It will be conducted with risk in mind. So you implement your risk management. You operationalize risk management interventions, you implement them. Then you evaluate what you have implemented. You have decided that you're going to install safety guards over all moving parts of machinery in the organization. Evaluate what is the risk now. Are there near misses? Are there are there near misses? No, you evaluate the occurrence of near misses. You don't even wait until you have an accident. You don't even wait to have an injury. Certain organization, every employee is required to report a near miss. You don't even wait until you're told to now fill these forms to report. You proactively report it. There are organizations that are like that. You report near misses. You know, something near, you nearly banged your fingers when the door shut because there was some gust of wind blowing. You report that as a near miss. Management takes action immediately. So point is, once you have designed your risk management intervention and implemented it, you will have to evaluate that risk management intervention that you have taken. Then, after evaluation, you can improve whatever intervention that you have integrated. And that intervention, now that improvement now comes back to the role of management in encouraging. We want to be a safe place to work. We want to be a productive work environment. Management again drives that process. Management basically drives each aspect of this risk framework. The integration into all activities, the design of interventions, the implementation, the evaluation, the improvement. Top management will drive this process. I think we had a hand up. I don't know. Mantui, there was a hand that was raised?
I think it was raised briefly. So unless, yeah, but
so we
if
can
it's raised again, I'll just let you know.
Just alert me kindly. So now, so we're talking about the risk management framework. So it's driven by top management. It's a whole plan, do, act, check cycle. It's a plan, do, act, check cycle. Integrate it into all function, design an intervention, implement it, evaluate it, improve it, all driven by top management with commitment of top management. Allow me to move on to the next slide. Now, I want us to have a look at the risk management framework, and there are 3 core things. And the first one is the risk management architecture. One of the things that, okay, I know we may be small businesses, large businesses represented in the audience. For the larger organizations, probably they do have some form of risk management architecture. For smaller businesses, probably that's where we need to think what we're going to do. You need to develop a risk management architecture. Ni ile tunaitanga kizungu mingi. Basically, it is essential to have a risk management committee with a risk management leader. The risk management leader, if you're very small, it could be the MD. If you are better resourced, you have more people working for you, it could be another person other than the top management. Could be another person, could be probably one of the mid-level managers who is the risk management leader in the organization. Point is, you need to have a committee that is going to manage risk management on a day-to-day basis. Remember what I said, good companies, an employee will report risk issues to the immediate supervisor. That employee can also report it to an alternative channel, which is this risk management committee. Yeah, so if it is an email addressed to the manager, copy it to the risk management committee, so that there is a structure. Things will not, we are busy in companies. People are very busy with targets. And sometimes some of these issues that are raised tend to get forgotten. There has to be a structure to manage the risk management. So create a risk management committee. Define who is going to sit on that risk management committee. So define the roles and responsibilities. So number one, who is the leader? Who is the risk management leader? Who oversights all risk management activities, make sure that they are well functioning within the organization. Number two, what is the representation of the various functions, processes in that risk management committee? So if you are an organization that is a functional organization that has departments, you have a marketing department, you have a operations department, you have a finance department, you have a HR department, you will have representatives of these various functions in that risk management committee. Then you will also have to consider what are the internal reporting requirements. Remember, this is a risk management process that is driven by the leadership in the organization. It's driven by top management. And in a well-functioning risk management environment, reporting goes all the way to the board. So there will be the board of directors. It will receive a report from the board risk committee. Risk committee will receive a report from the CEO or MD. MD will receive a report from the champion of the risk management committee and from any other manager within the organization. So there will be reporting requirements. What gets reported to who? And how is that? What are the reporting relationships to ensure that there is adequate board oversight over risk management activities? When you see organizations saying that they are a safe working environment, you will find that any incident is going to go all the way to the board. You have an accident, it will go all the way to the board of directors. So what are the reporting requirements? Internal reporting requirements. As I said earlier on, how do you report a safety issue? Those are the internal reporting requirements that we are talking about. Then you will also need to consider what are the external reporting controls that you may be required. Injuries, accidents will be reported even to the insurance company, to the relevant government office. Accidents are reported. So also define what are the external reporting controls. Because of course, if you have insurance, you have to report to the insurance company. Of course, there are those that are going to be, their accidents will be reported to the relevant government agency. So also define what are the external reporting requirements for what risk. Then we have risk management assurance arrangements. How do we ensure that if we said all people getting into the production facility are going to be wearing these steel-toed shoes, how do you ensure that people who are entering the production requirement are wearing steel-toed shoes? It's mandatory. Production area, you know, things fall down. You want to avoid those injuries. Yeah, I know people may, you know, people have their own personal preferences and all that. But how do you, you know, yeah, as you come in as however you want. You want to come in Crocs, whatever, you know, I mean, that's okay. But if it is in the production area, you have said that you have a regulation, you have a working instruction that anyone entering the work environment must wear steel-toed shoes. How do you ensure that everyone is wearing steel-toed shoes in the production area? Office area, yeah, you can wear whatever you want, may not be controlled. Production area, there are controls. So what are the assurance arrangements do you have in the organization to ensure that whatever risk management measures you have implemented are being complied to? What is the assurance that risk management guidelines are being complied with? I have been to places where you do not have steel-toed shoes. There is no entry for you. Completely, hakuna. Totally, no entry. If you're found inside there, steel-toed shoes, you don't have the helmet on, you are escorted out of the premises. It's actually reported. It's reported. Whoever has guided you out puts in a report. So how do you ensure that you have a system that works, that ensures people are complying to the risk management work instructions, guidelines, objectives, processes? How do you ensure that people are complying? So you will need to have a structure, a risk management architecture. This will work even for small businesses, for large businesses. As I have said, I mean, you will do your own guides, you will do your own guideline, you will create your own structure. Even if you are 2 people in the company, that is enough risk management committee. So think about this. Allow me to talk about the risk management strategy. As your risk management improves, evolves, as it grows, you will need to have a risk management, develop a risk management philosophy. Here is where you will express your attitude towards risk. There are many manufacturing organizations where you will see they will have this safety first. People who deal with petroleum, they will always have some banner, some sticker somewhere, safety first. Again, a lot of manufacturing companies also have, what is your risk management philosophy? How do you manage it? And this risk management philosophy ideally ought to apply to all activities of the organization. So it's not just manufacturing, but also in people of finance, in people of marketing. It should be something that everyone working in the organization can, what is the word? They find it making sense, ought to make sense to everyone in the organization. So develop a risk management philosophy. Embed risk management. We had mentioned about integrating into every activity, into every function, into every task. Where you are, say, for example, mixing materials, do you provide masks to ensure people are not inhaling hazardous chemicals? Well, yeah. In production, we call them materials, but some of them are hazardous. Some of them, you just inhale, you get an asthmatic attack, even if you're not asthmatic. What is the long-term damage? So can you embed those risk management activities in every activity of the organization? You do not want certain people doing the kausha thing where, you know, guys think they are tough, you know, they can inhale, you know. Can you make sure that you embed risk management in all aspects of the organization? Right from that person who is doing formulation, can you have risk management embedded in all activities, every employee of the organization? You need to develop a risk appetite and an attitude towards risk. Risk appetite refers to how much risk are you willing to tolerate? As an organization, how much risk are you willing to exposure? How much risk are you willing to expose your business to? Define your risk appetite. Write it down. This we can tolerate. Beyond this, we have to take intervention. Again, not every risk has to be managed. You know, there are those risks. Once you develop your risks, you will classify them in terms of impact and in terms of likelihood of occurrence. There are certain risks that are relatively low impact, low probability. Some of those you may choose not to manage them. But then there are those high impact, high probability. You will have to define what appetite for those risks you can tolerate. So develop in writing a risk appetite. Then develop an attitude towards risk. It's supposed to be a culture. It begins as formal management of risk, but ideally you want to have a culture where everybody knows certain activities, where people will just be saying, boss here, Pendi. I mean, it has to become an attitude. Whatever the risk is, people have to develop an attitude towards that risk. So develop a risk appetite, develop an attitude towards risk. Even better if it can grow to become a risk culture. Conduct benchmark tests for significance. There are people who are managing the same risks you are facing, and they do it better than you. Can you try and find out how they manage them? Yeah. There are factories that have never had a break-in. How have they managed to be break-in free? Because it's something they've done. So conduct benchmark tests. Conduct tests to benchmark your risk management strategies. You don't want to recreate the wheel. You can learn from people who are doing well at managing it. Then we will also need to conduct risk assessments. You will need to conduct risk assessments. And what risk assessment techniques are you going to conduct? Then every year, you see, it is a journey. Risk management is a journey. Remember, you may be a small company or a big company. You may not achieve risk management excellence overnight. It's a journey. So whatever risk management objectives you have, whatever risk management plan you have, you may implement it over time. So implement it. Develop what your risk management priorities are for the current point in time. So allow me just to project this. Now, protocols. Now, these are the interventions you will be having in your organization to manage risks. There are various tools and techniques. I've just mentioned a few minutes before, you will classify the risks depending on the likelihood of occurrence, number one, and then the impact if it occurs. Is it high impact, medium impact, low impact? Then what is the likelihood of it occurring? Low probability, medium probability, high probability. Those are just two approaches to managing risks. So you will have to develop tools and techniques to manage risk. You will have to classify the risks. What are the risks we're facing? Classify the risks. You will have to develop procedures of assessing these risks. What processes will you have to assess the risk? Is it going to be in a committee? Is it going to be a champion? How will these risks be assessed and how will they be mitigated? Then you will have to develop risk control rules and procedures. And this also includes work instructions. For example, in this production site, you must wear a helmet, you must wear steel-capped shoes. I mean, these are requirements. During COVID, we were being told you cannot enter if you're not wearing a mask. Yeah, so what you will have to develop rules, procedures, and work instructions to manage your risks. You will have to respond to incidents, issues, and events. When you have an occurrence happening, a risk occurrence happening, a risk that actually happens. Yes, it is a risk. It has now happened. You will have to have a crisis management processes, which is one of what we're talking about next after we finish with risk management. You need to have a crisis management process. Then, when this crisis management is over, you will now need to have a recovery phase. You will now need to get into a business continuity management phase. So it's a continuum: risk management, crisis management, business continuity management. It's a continuum. So you will have to respond to incidents, issues, events. Absolutely, you need a risk management plan for your organization. You will need to have risk management procedures, risk management rules, risk management instructions. You will have to document this and record any outcomes, any incidents that are reported. Let them get to the attention of the relevant process holder or the risk management committee, or at the CEO level or even board level, whatever the case may be. Then, of course, you have to train people, especially for smaller companies, small businesses. You, the owner, it is your responsibility to train. You have to train your people. Daily, stop work, train them. I mean, let it get in what is required in that environment. Then, of course, you may need to have audit procedures to ensure that your risk management processes are working and that they are reducing the risks and you are moving towards risk management excellence. And then lastly, you have to report. You have to come up with the reporting protocols, and I'll present the next slide as just as a depiction of the protocols. What do you report? To who are you reporting? Remember, I've said there are certain incidents that will have to be reported to government, especially accidents. If there's theft or B, you'll have to get from the police. There are those reporting requirements. What gets reported to who? Then there are those reporting relationships that go upwards in the organization. So what gets reported to your supervisor? What gets reported to the risk management committee, to the CEO, to the board? So what are the reporting requirements? You have to define these reporting requirements and the disclosures that you make. There are companies that report incidents that happened in their accounts, annual accounts. They have disclosures to the public, to shareholders, to outsiders. It's there in their accounts. So you have a leakage of a particular pipe or water. Companies disclose that and what they did to mitigate, to ensure it doesn't happen again. Something else, are you going to go for certification? Risk management certification. So what certification are you going to get? If you have a lab that does certain analysis within the company, what certification are you going to go for? ISO 17025. Are you going for that certification for your lab that measures? So what certification are you going to? The point here is develop a process, develop risk management protocols, processes within the organization. Just before in that area of risk management. Yes, sorry.
Let me interrupt briefly. Maybe we can just go for a brief break before we continue. I don't know what you think.
Let's have the break. How many minutes?
We can
how many minutes?
Because I see the content is we can do 10 minutes. So we can come back at 10:45. Yeah.
So, thank you.
Great. So ladies and gentlemen, we'll proceed on the break. We also have just launched a poll gauging where you are at on your risk management journey. So please fill it in as we're on break.
Mantui, we can proceed.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay,
Welcome
so
back, ladies
welcome
and
back.
gentlemen. Yes.
Welcome back. And now, before the break, we were mentioning that it would be of importance that you define the reporting relationships for risk activities within the organization. So what will be the reporting relationships? Remember, we're assuming that we now have some risk management architecture. So it could be a committee, it could be a team. So how will you report? And so you have your risk management committee, you have your risk management plan, you are implementing risk management interventions throughout the organization. What will be reported? And again, what oversight will be provided by the board? So you will need to think about whether you're a large company or a small company, you will need to come up with a way for reporting risks in the organization. So at a functional level, the person who is in charge of a process or a department or a section, what risks, what reporting relationships with regard to risk do they have to report? And who do they report to? So the supervisor reports to who? Does he report to the function head? So the supervisor in, say, manufacturing may be reporting to the head of production. The head of production may be reporting to matters on risk, may be reporting to the MD. The MD reports to the board, the board risk committee. Board risk committee reports to the full board. So what are the reporting relationships that you are going to adopt? Remember, the thing is that risk management is the responsibility for risk is going to be on an individual person, an employee. It is going to be the responsibility of an individual manager. And then there are also collective responsibilities, say, for example, at the executive committee level, at the board risk committee level, and at the board of directors level. So you will need to find a way where there is oversight of risk management activities, and then there is also the provision of information. How many accidents have we had? Why did those accidents happen? What interventions have we taken to ensure that that does not happen again? That information will have to be communicated upwards. So it's part of that risk management framework that you have to think about. So having said that, the next important thing is going to be about what is the risk management process? Let us talk about the risk management process. Now, with regard to the risk management process, it will always begin with a certain scope, context, criteria. Today, in the environment we are facing today, what are the risks for your company? What are the risks? What is the context of your company today, right now? What are the issues? And I would say that today, the scope is your business. What business are you in? Context, what environment are you facing? Earlier on, I did mention 2.7% rate of inflation, very low demand from our customers. We have a relatively high interest rate, treasury bill rate, about 15% currently. There's a treasury bill rate, 15% currently. Then we have a relatively sluggish economic growth rate. This is our context, sluggish demand. This is the context that you are operating in. Then, what risks are you facing? So now this risk identification, the scope, the context, the criteria, this is going to be reviewed, discussed by the risk management committee. Then the risk management committee will sit down and it will now try and oversee the risk identification process. Remember, risk identification is not exclusively the role of the risk management committee. Risk identification is for everybody in the organization. It's everybody. What are the risks we're facing? It's for everybody in the organization. The risks that are identified, where are they being channeled to? Where are they being communicated to? Who is receiving these risks that have been identified? Then at the end of the day, all these risks will make it to the risk management committee, and they will be entered into the risk management plan. Then they will be evaluated, they will be analyzed and evaluated. And here is where now the issue is going to be, what is the likelihood of this risk occurring? What is the impact of this risk if it does occur? An accident. What would be the impact of this risk if it occurred? The injuries. What is the impact? Would this be life-threatening? Or would it be, a scratch, a bruise? You have to consider the impact of this. So analyze the risks. Do an evaluation of the risks. Compare these risks against your criteria. What will you tolerate? Remember, you have a risk appetite. You have a risk appetite. So against your risk criteria as an organization, recommend a way to treat this risk. There are many ways to treat these risks. Very many ways to treat these risks. One of them could be have a security guard to prevent unauthorized entry. It's one of the ways. Installation of security features, CCTV, electric fences. It's a way to treat the risk. Getting insurance against break-in is a treatment for risk. For example, one of the ways the banks handle the risks, they have armed police at the branch. So a way you are treating this risk. Getting an insurance, you're working with people. People may steal for you. Getting a fidelity insurance is one of the ways. Getting safety insurance for your people, WIBA, is a legal requirement, is one of the ways you treat the risk. Getting additional accident insurance is also a way of handling the risk. Training people is one of the ways of handling the risk. So you come up with a recommendation of how the risk will be treated. So you will look at the risks, identify the risks, analyze the risk, evaluate the risk against the criteria, risk appetite, risk attitudes, then come up with a suggestion, a recommendation on how to treat the risk. Then implement that risk treatment. And that's the mitigation we talk about. Reduce the likelihood and impact of that risk through the risk treatment. So having said that, that is just one component, but there are still 3 other components. So number 1 is monitoring and review. You will have to monitor and review the risk environment, the risk mitigation environment. Companies do monitor incidences of risks. Companies do monitor near misses. Even before it became an accident, there were many near misses that happened. These interventions, these risk treatments that you have implemented, are there still near misses? Are there still accidents? So there is a continuous monitoring and review. Remember, what you want to achieve ultimately is continuous improvement. You want to reduce the number of incidents and accidents that are likely to happen. So you will monitor the outcomes of the interventions that you have implemented. Then you will have continuous communication and consultation with your stakeholders. Remember what I said about risk identification. It is the role of everybody in the organization. People who are risk aware and not risk aware. People who have a risk mindset, and people who don't have a risk mindset. So you will continuously engage your stakeholders, your employees, your suppliers, people who are coming within your premises, your customers, your visitors. You will continuously engage, communicate with your stakeholders to ensure that there are no lapses, to ensure that they also know the risk interventions you're taking, to give them a peace of mind, to enable them raise new issues that need to be raised. Then lastly, there is the recording and reporting aspect of the risk process. There are reports that will be generated. You will have to define the protocol on how this risk management interventions, the whole risk management results will be communicated, incidents will be communicated. To who? By who? And ultimately, this risk reporting will have to be oversighted by the board. So develop your scope of your risk management. What are we managing? It's for your business. Within what context? You have an internal context, you have an external context. Internal context is within your company right now. You know what is happening in your company right now. You know, you have all your own challenges, your own issues. You will take that into consideration. You will take the external context, the economy, things that are happening at a macro level. You will take into consideration your risk criteria. What is your risk appetite? What are you willing to tolerate? Then identify risk, analyze risk, evaluate the risks against the criteria, develop risk treatments to mitigate the risks. Then you will monitor and review the entire system. You will report, continuous reporting of your risk management activities. And again, you will continue in continuous communication and consultation with the stakeholders. Stakeholders could be your employees, could be visitors coming to your premises, it could be customers. You will have continuous engagement with your customers. So what have we talked about? 3 things. You will need to develop some risk management principles. You will need to develop a risk management framework. The most important thing is to have a risk management committee, then develop a risk management process within the organization. So are we together up to that point? So just put a thumbs up if we're together. Okay. So I think we have 2 participants with their hands raised. Mantui, what are we going to do?
I think we can hear them out just briefly before we continue, if that's okay with you.
We move on to the next section.
Okay, so we respond to the questions at the end?
I think we should respond them at the end because
Okay.
we have quite
All
a bit
right.
of... So now, thank you. Now, we have mentioned that we need to develop a risk mindset, a risk-based mindset. We will need to develop a risk management. We will need to integrate the risk management into the way we are doing business. And the whole point is to reduce the likelihood of those risks occurring. We want to reduce the likelihood of not being able to achieve our objectives as an organization because of those risks that are in our environment, within our organization and in our business environment. So we've taken precautions. We have a risk management process in place. It is working. But now, listen to me. Many organizations, especially larger organizations, they already have a risk management process in these organizations, and it is working. However, there are instances where the worst comes to the worst, and those risks that you had anticipated, and even those that you had not anticipated, happen. Things happen. Yes, you have done your precautions, you've managed your risks, but things happen. Now that takes us to the next. This is your homework. You will develop a risk architecture. Think about how you're going to integrate risk management. And we are here. So you've done your risk management, but sometimes things happen and that risk you had either anticipated or not anticipated has materialized. It has happened. You are now in a disaster. Something has happened. You are in disaster. So now, how do you handle to crisis management? So we began with risk management. Now we are in crisis management. Whatever we had anticipated has happened, and you are now having a crisis on your hands. So the first question would be, what crisis impact on your organization? Do you remember this not very long ago? See, this was happening this year. You remember this? We had some issues with the Gen Zs. Now, hey, this place, do you know what this place is? And these guys impact you whether you like it or not. These are guys from Pokot North and the border with Turukana. A lot of your meat comes from there. You guys eat meat. A lot of the meat that ends up in Nairobi comes from this area. So they have an impact on you if you're in the hospitality industry, you're doing choma, you're in hospitality industry, restaurant. These guys have an impact on you. Things happen, I mean, we're used to collapsing buildings. I mean, it's unfortunate, but it happens. I mean, this is Nairobi. It happens. These things happen. Probably it is your shop that was under there. I mean, these things happen. No, you have these crises happening, and you have to manage that crisis. Companies have had to manage crisis. So yeah, what is a crisis? This is basically something that is abnormal. It doesn't happen every day. It's abnormal. It is extraordinary. And it threatens your organization. It's a threat to your organization. It threatens the viability of your organization. It is something that can put you out of business. Being unable to manage this crisis effectively may ultimately result in putting you out of business. Now, ask yourself, where do this happen from? This crisis may originate from within your business. You have a machine that breaks down. It may happen from outside your business. I have met people who have had power surges, and it cooks the machines. You're running on electricity, you have a power surge, your machines, your motors burn. So now you have to import, motors, new machinery, new components, you have to have a budget of what? 10 million, huge amounts of money. Just because of one incident, one power surge, you're rendered out of production for the next 3 months. Things happen, People have been impacted on. So it could be an act of malice, sabotage. Happens a lot, even in our own environment here. Of course, there are things that are political, that is still impact on us as business people. As business people, we try to remain out of politics. We do not want to deal with politics. You do not want to state your political affiliations. You want to focus on your business, whoever, regardless of the politics, but then things that are politically instigated probably by some politician hitting on your company. People have been impacted on this. No careless statements by politicians, by aspirants. The impact on you. You may have issues with a competitor causing a crisis for you. Probably giving a malicious report that you are using this and that. You end up finding things on social media touching on your organization. Some of it may be, fabricated, it may be lies, it may not be true. But yeah, there you are, you have to handle this crisis that is on your hands. Also, things tend to snowball. Something that had begun, not as a big issue, it went on unresolved. Then, especially when it comes to maintenance of machinery, you neglect the maintenance of a machinery, you fail to change a bush. Then, sooner or later, somebody gets injured by that machine. You have incidents that have snowballed just because of negligence, not taking due care, especially of maintenance activities. You end up having a crisis on your hands. The machine may break down, the machine may injure somebody, so you may have a number of sources of crisis from within the organization and from outside the organization. And that is why you will need to think about having a crisis management, a way to approach crisis management. Things have happened in Kenya, and people, you would expect that they would be more responsible. They come on air and they say it was an act of God. I don't know whether you remember seeing news items where some particular incident was blamed on an act of God. Force majeure, as we call it in legal terms. I mean, it's so nobody, the company is not to blame, we're not responsible, it was an act of God. I think we need to do a better job at managing crisis on our hands. And the reason is this: you need to have a more managed, a more holistic approach towards managing crises that happen. We need to be able to determine this crisis ahead of time. Remember, you already have a risk management process in the organization. So you have identified the risks that could become a crisis. So you need to be able to identify these risks that could materialize into crisis, identify them, identify their potential impacts, then attempt to mitigate them in your risk management activities. If this crisis does actually happen, you need to have developed that framework to enable you to manage this crisis, to enable the organization to safeguard itself. So if you have anticipated, you have had a power surge before, a power spike before, have had a power spike before, we're used to power surges, so you have a spike. How are you going to manage it to safeguard your assets, safeguard your computers, to safeguard your machinery that is running on electricity? So how are you going to safeguard? Then you need to find a way in which you have a framework that will also manage the reputation of your company. You will need to manage the brand. You do not want to be considered to be selling fake stuff. want to protect the reputation. You want to protect the brand. You want to protect your activities, value-creating activities. You do not want a situation where your production is shut down as you wait for machinery to be imported, to arrive, to be installed. 6 months down the line, you're essentially out of business. So in your crisis management, you want to have a coordinated approach that is going to lead, direct, and control the organization in times of crisis. You want to safeguard the interests of the organization, the interests of your stakeholders. You want to safeguard the reputation of the organization. You want to preserve your brand. You want to ensure that your assets are protected. They are not destroyed by those crises that may occur. So this is what we are focusing on in crisis management. You want to be able to manage those crises as they occur. Yes, you do have risk management processes in place, but you also want to manage crises when they do occur. And once in a while, even in very well-run organizations, we do have crises happening. You need to be able to handle them when they do happen. So crisis management is going to
William, sorry, I'm really sorry for interrupting. So
Okay.
I noticed that we were really tight on time. So
Yes.
I would request if we could just summarize so that we can have a few minutes of Q&A because we need to end at 11:30. I'm sorry for that.
Okay. That's okay. Okay. So what I will say, yes, we are under pressure of time. So just to summarize, let me just give some quick highlights. So you will need to develop a risk management committee in your organization. You will need to have leadership over your risk management within the organization. Have a crisis management committee to lead the organization's response when a crisis occurs. Of course, you will have the crisis management being governed by principles. You will have a framework, which is the leadership, a committee, a culture, and then there will also be a risk management process where you will identify potential crises. You will take steps to prevent them. You will prepare for this crisis if it happens and have an appropriate response. And that appropriate response is what I was saying. Don't come on news and tell us that it was an act of God. Have an appropriate response for the crisis that has happened and recover the organization. You have to anticipate the crisis. Now, I'm summarizing kindly. Just bear with me, I'm summarizing. Now, your risk management is going to be based, there are things you will have to do before the crisis. You will have to do your risk management. You will also have to identify you will also have to set up a crisis management committee to handle any crisis that happens. It's your crisis response. And after that, you will also have to undertake a post-crisis response for the organization. So anticipate. So you will have to, you have to do this deliberately. 1, risk management. 2, crisis management. Those things that do happen, those crises that do happen, you have to be able to manage them. You will have this text for your review. You will need to have crisis leadership, a team, a committee. Usually it's led by the CEO of the organization. It's the person who is ultimately responsible for managing the crisis will lead this committee. And this crisis committee, this crisis leadership is going to manage this crisis. It will get all information necessary. It will disseminate the information that is required. And as you do that, you do in a way that is going to protect the organization. You do it in a way that is going to protect the organization ultimately. And so the decisions that will have to be made during the crisis will have to be made by this committee. You will have identified people in advance. You will have created a committee you will have created this crisis management committee. Decisions that are being made during the actual crisis management will be made by this crisis management committee. They will meet hourly, they will meet daily, just depends on the scenario, and they will give their inputs, and then whatever information that is being released will be released probably by either the CEO or if not the CEO, probably someone who is in charge of communication within that organization. So, and you see, if you do not have a communication, that is when people resort to rumor mongering. Lots of rumor mongering, social media, things that are not authoritative. You need to prepare that crisis communication. You have to begin preparing for it even before the crisis happens. That is why you need that crisis management committee. When the crisis happens, there is response. The crisis committee will meet, will look at the available information, and the designated spokesperson will talk about whatever happened. And as you even talk about whatever happened, you have to protect the organization, you have to protect the other stakeholders of the organization, and then the organization has to recover. You have to rebuild the image of the company, you have to rebuild the brand, you have to get the trust, you have to tell people we are still in business. Yes, this happened, we are still in business. So you have to communicate the recovery. What happens post the crisis? So it's important. Yes.
Thank you so much, William. I really hate to do this. Yes, but
Yes.
allow me to just take about two questions.
Okay.
And I realize these are such rich nuggets. This is really great information that is being shared. And from our end, I think what we can do is we'd have to consider how best to, even if it means having a separate session, because I know there's a whole section on business continuity management that is yet to be covered. So ladies and gentlemen, bear with us. We did receive feedback last week that it would be really good to end on time. So I'll just take two questions, and then we will also share these slides. So you will have access to the slides, just like William said. But because of time, allow me to just take two questions. So the first one, I'll read from the chat, and then I'll choose Joseph Kaleke. I think he had raised his hand quite some time back. So we have an anonymous attendee who asks, as a business, you are faced with a high-risk situation. How do you proceed, and what options do you have? Yeah.
Thank you. You have we have so many high-risk situations. So you have to make a decision, how will I manage this high-risk situation? And those high-risk situations that you're able to identify, you should act on them immediately. Don't wait for it to become a crisis. So whatever you can do today to mitigate this high-risk situation, make sure that you begin taking interventions right away. The thing is, as businesses always have an issue of the budget. So you may not be able to mitigate this entirely today, right now, but you can begin taking interventions. That's why we mentioned having risk management priorities for today, for this month, for this year. Have your risk management priorities for the current point in time. So just don't sit back. Whatever your budget is, you may have some budget, you may not have a good budget, but begin taking action today. Have risk management priorities.
Thank you.
Mantui?
Thank you so much. And even as we continue, you could just share your feedback on the comments. So I'll again read two questions. We have Sheila who asks, is competition a risk? And then Frederick who says, can you, let me take an anonymous one, because for Frederick, I think the question will be answered through the slides. So is it safe to say a risk is yet to occur, it is anticipated, and the risk management plan is set to mitigate it, while a crisis is an actualized risk where the crisis management plan is set to reverse the situation or minimize the damage?
That is in order. That's correct. Yes, it is.
Great. And Sheila now is
And
asking,
then,
is competition a risk? Yes.
now, competition gives us a risk. And that's why we are advocating for risk-based management. If you're here and you are ISO 9001 certified, we are talking about a quality management system that is risk-based management. So yes, competition may be a risk because they will be stealing your customers, they will be stealing your market share, and if you're not very good at managing your business, you may end up getting out of business because of the activities of the competition. Yes, competition is a risk. It is a business risk to us, which we must manage by ensuring that customers are buying from us. Have a good quality management system. Sell customers what they want. Yes, competition is a risk, but it is a risk that can be managed.
Great, thank you. So we have the last one from Joseph. So Joseph, I'll request you to just summarize your question so that we can do it in good time. Karibu, Joseph. Okay, I think Joseph might have an issue with the audio. I'll give Nancy a chance. So Nancy, maybe summarize your question. Thank you. Okay, that's all right. So ladies and gentlemen, allow me to just end there. But before I end, we can have William, you can also give us maybe your closing remarks and the key takeaway that you'd want our business leaders here today to take from the session and on risk management in general. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, Mantui and DTB, to be able to share on risk management and crisis management. And thank you to all our participants for your attention, for the comments. Thank you very much. And also for the engagement that we have had. I appreciate. And as we close, I will just emphasize, develop a risk management structure, create a committee. Even if you're 2 people in your company, create a committee of 2 people, begin managing the risks. You're facing risks, whatever you're doing, you're facing risks. Even if you're 2 people, have a risk management committee of those 2 people, begin managing the risks one by one. And then as you proceed, you can now evolve, improve your risk management. Then also have a crisis management committee. Those are two different things. One manages the risk so that it doesn't become a crisis. And if that crisis actually happens, you are equipped to manage the crisis. Thank you very much. I think I can stop from there. Santeni.
Thank you so much, William. We can give him a virtual round of applause. I think, as has been said even in the comments, it's been eye-opening, and that risk management is relevant for all sizes of businesses. And so it is something we need to be a bit more intentional about and to actually incorporate and structure in our businesses. So thank you so much, William, for articulating and breaking down these concepts really well. For sure, we will look into having maybe some other time so that we can explore this topic more. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for sitting through and being engaging. Have a good day, and we will have our last module next week on Wednesday, and it is around tapping into cross-border trade. So we would really encourage you to listen in to the session that's coming next week, to open your eyes to opportunities that you can explore. It will be the same time, same place. And usually when you attend a session, you will get slides from that particular session from Zoom, but also at the end of the program, we will upload the slides and recordings to our website, and we will share the same. So tune in for next week as we finish. Thank you so much, William, once again, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good day.
Thank you.